services. So we support both the Space Force and the Air Force. And this panel is set up with AFRL folks from different parts of the lab, and so we can go through each area and you kind of see how they contribute. And we have a bunch more folks that are working in modeling and simulation at AFRL. I'd say dozens, maybe hundreds that use simulations regularly. And users of simulation, and we like to feel we're contributing to S&T and building simulation capabilities at AFRL. So my name's Jim Gump. I work for the commander, so I work in headquarters, so I get to see all the different modeling and simulation areas, but I also support the Chief Modeling Sim Office in the Pentagon, and there's a bunch of them here. So if you want to learn more about how the Air Force has, Air and Space Force, I should say, the DAF, has an office that does modeling and simulation for both services. It's out of the Pentagon, and there's an office here in Orlando, AFMS, that is working with us as a partner. So we have AFMS, and then there's a team in Dayton as well, in Ohio, because of the proximity to AFRL and the program offices out there. So the term, I'll do a quick intro, and I'm a moderator, so I'm not going to talk too much. It's really for the panel. So the term push and pull, if you're not familiar with that, is the idea that you're looking at technology and if we have an idea, like it's a hypersonic weapon or it's some technology or Skyborg autonomous aircraft, we have a technology that we created because we see an opportunity. Then we push that out to the acquirers and they build the weapon system. We field it to the warfighters. So that's the push. And then the pull is the warfighter and the requirements folks say, we need something that does this. And they pull on the S&T community. So all the program offices, if they have any technology, low TRL, and they need help, they kind of pull out of AFRL and get the technology that they need. And then back to modeling and simulation, as I mentioned, we use it as a tool, but we also create M&S technology, and that's what you're going to hear about from the panel. Some of the panel members are also helping the Chief Modeling Sim Office with some initiatives, so that'll come up as well, that partnership and an important connection. And then I also wanted to go through, we'll do one pass down with intro, and the folks can introduce themselves. They'll do a much better job than I would, and then we'll go back through. We have 5 questions, and then Dr. Bennett has cards. So after we get through the 5, we'll go all the way down the line. Everybody has some comments for each 5 questions, and then we'll go through and take questions from you guys. So we have 90 minutes. We'll try to give ourselves like half an hour at the end for the Q&A for the audience. And this is a small-ish group, so it should be pretty informal, and we should be able to have some discussion, hopefully some discussion, and get through it. So start with Dr. Glenn Gunzelman.
All right, hi there. I'm Glenn Gunzelman. I'm from AFRL. I'm part of the 711th Human Performance Wing. I just wanted to pile on a couple of things to what Dr. Gump just said. First, AFRL is 1 lab, 2 services. Unfortunately, we were planning to have somebody from our Space Vehicles Directorate here who works directly with the Space OTTI folks and is doing work there. Furlough happened, government shutdown happened, and coming out of that, the logistics just didn't work out for him to be here. So if there are questions about that specific relationship and how we're supporting the space side and their OTTI work, I can make up some answers, but probably what I'll do is just take your name and pass it along to him, and he can give you the right answer coming out. The second thing is, he said that this is for us to talk to you. I actually think it's for you guys to ask us questions, so please do that. Get the cards, because if you guys don't put questions down on the cards, Wink over there is going to fill them all out with questions for us, and so
Yes.
and nobody wants that. So please think about what the questions are that you'd like to hear, and pass those on up so that we can, give you information that's going to be useful. My role in the lab is that I'm the modeling and simulation lead for a division called Warfighter Interactions and Readiness. Again, part of the Human Performance Wing. The work that we do is really on decision making and cognition. There's a couple of other folks up here from that division as well that represent different parts of that portfolio. Specifically, I lead an initiative called the Modeling and Simulation Integration Lab, or MISSIL. And that is work that is targeted at creating an infrastructure and an M&S architecture that facilitates technology integration, allows us to do experimentation, emphasizing human-in-the-loop kinds of question answering and experimentation, and then speed that process of transitioning technologies out to operations, end users, program offices, wherever that technology needs to go. So we're heavily invested in the joint simulation environment. We're kind of unique in that we have in our facilities a JSE in a box or a JIAB. And as far as I know, I haven't been corrected yet, we are the only facility to have a JIAB that is dedicated to science and technology. And so it's a real opportunity for us. There were some questions in yesterday's panel for PEO training about being able to get industry to access JSE capabilities, tie their stuff in, demonstrate the utility and the value proposition. I think we might be the right place to do that because our JIAB is not part of the operational JSE environment. We're not a training shop, we're not a test shop, we're a science and technology shop. And so if you have a capability out in industry and you want to incorporate that into JSE, work some integration, do some experimentation, evaluate in scenarios how that might support the warfighter, I think that we might be the place to go to do that. Part of what we're doing is also working on interoperability, looking across different modeling and simulation environments, again, starting with JSE as a core, since that's where we're going as an Air Force, but making sure that we're not leaving behind the DMO capabilities that we're using for a lot of our simulation environments. My organization was involved heavily in the development of DMO to begin with, so we've got a lot of experience in that realm. We want to bring that to the table to support JSE, and as you'll hear in a little bit, also trying to support integration of AFSIM as a capability into that overall M&S environment so that we can take maturing technologies and bring those into that OTTI digital thread pipeline.
Yeah, I would just add too that there's cockpit sims in Dayton, a few of them at different places, and they have a really nice setup in Building 852 in Dayton. So I encourage you, if you want to see what they've got for capabilities there with cockpit sims, their shop in AFRL RQ, who's not on the panel today, is another shop with some good cockpit sims.
Hi, I'm Stephen McGee. I am the Deputy Readiness Product Line Lead in the same division, 711th Warfighter Interactions and Readiness Division. I do want to mention that Dave Malik is the Readiness Product Line Lead, but I work closely with Dave on all things in the product line. What the Readiness Product Line focuses on is 6.3 and up, RD, T&E, technology, tools, and processes to improve readiness and training. So thinking cognitive effectiveness, decision-making, performance and proficiency of airmen in training and operational mission context. So as Jim was mentioning, we're driven by both the tech push and pull, the tech pull from our relationships with the ops community and ACC A5T, but also looking towards where the Air Force is going, identifying readiness gaps, and then coming up with innovative solutions to fill those gaps. As Jim was mentioning, our facility there in right pad 852, we have some high fidelity 4th and 5th gen fighter sims, and we do some integration training. So that's bringing in operators from different operational units around and coming into our facility and doing integration training. So that's the mission planning, the execution, and the debrief, which often doesn't happen until operators get to live fly exercises or even deployed, so we can get them that training early on. I do want to mention that our gaming lab in the product line is here at ITSEC. We do have a booth out on the exhibit floor in the STEM pavilion. Go check it out, 2387. If you haven't been there, go check it out. But we use some of the latest commercial tech to support training and readiness needs, and so we'll use the game engines, Unreal, Unity, and then some of the newest XR, but also mobile and desktop simulation and virtual environments. We have a pretty robust STEM effort where we bring in a lot of students in the summertime to work on real-world challenge problems, deliver those to customers at the end of the summer. But throughout the year, we also do a lot of job shadows and career fairs and field trips and everything along those lines. So if you haven't been, I implore you to check it out. It's back in the STEM Pavilion. Plenty of handouts there. I'll be out there later. When you see the red race car, you know you've got it. It's back there. But pretty excited to be here and looking forward to this discussion.
Jerome Ray. I'm the AFSIM program manager, previously coming from JSE, so really excited in my role with AFSIM and a lot of the different things and simulations in digital environments. A lot of people ask, what is AFSIM? Had a couple Army folks come up to me yesterday and ask me if it was the Air Force framework for simulation. So just going to throw out, it's the Advanced Framework for Simulation, Integration, and Modeling. And so coming over into this office, and we are focusing on scaling and expanding AFSIM to be a true DoD and DOW asset tool. We are backed by OSD and SAF-SA to go out and collect requirements and build a enterprise distribution across all the different services to start to get after test, training, analytics, operations, logistics. We understand that AFSIM has been a great analysis tool, and they are expanding that based off of demand signals that we're seeing. I think one of the great things about that is the collaborations we're building across the DoD and DOW. We have an AFSIM users group base that is over 600 plus organizations of multiple different working groups from land, air, subsurface, and we are continuing to grow. So I just ask that as we work through things and you guys have questions, we wouldn't be able to do this without having government partners as well as industry partners. So happy to be here and happy to take any questions you guys have throughout the day.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Brian Simpson. I am a late add to the panel, but there was an empty chair up here, so I thought I'd squat. I'm the technical lead for the Human Learning and Cognition Core Technical Competency. It's primarily, for a little context, it's primarily a 6.2 applied research portfolio with some foundational work as well. So it's a little earlier in the process than some of the other things that you're hearing about. Again, for a little background, it's one of 4 core technical competencies in the Human Effectiveness Directorate that are focused on enabling, enhancing, sustaining, and restoring human performance. We have groups that are looking at human-machine interface development, folks that are focused on the effects of directed energy on the human body, folks that are using biotechnology and biosciences to assess operator state and mitigate when needed. The human learning and cognition in particular is that core technical competency is focused on the development of advanced training technologies and high fidelity models of cognitive and perceptual processes in order to optimize performance. Just a little more detail there, and then I'll talk about some specific efforts as we go through the questions. We are developing and integrating digital representations of the perceptual and cognitive constraints of humans in operationally stressful environments. So that might be taking into account the impact of altitude, noise, oxygen, or lack thereof, other things that might impact cognitive performance. So everything from low-level sensory processes to higher-level and even socio-cognitive influencing processes. The models predict decision-making, and they provide some insights into how learners learn that can serve as foundational pillars for our training work. We're also, in the training realm, we're providing these advanced training ecosystems to meet the needs of the future fight. So advanced architectures and data management structures for at-scale training. That's for single operator training to large force exercises. We are looking at proficiency-based training and personalization of training for operational competencies. And we are employing AI and ML capabilities right now to promote human-machine teams that can rapidly and adaptively learn from and with each other in real time. Ultimately, we need to test these technologies in live environments, virtual environments, LVC environments, in a closed-loop process that will allow us to iterate and improve the models that we have and improve our training interventions so that we can ensure optimized operational performance. Thanks very much for inviting me here, Jim and Glenn. I appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Brian. So as you heard, we're kind of heavy on the human performance side of the lab. If we had a huge panel, optimally, it would have been each of the TDs represented, which are technology directorates. So you would have heard from RV on space that was mentioned, and directed energy weapons and RD weapons out of Eglin. So we're divided. If you look on our public website, you can see there's Rome, New York, and our different sites that have different technologies. And the way to navigate M&S is you can find the people at each technology directorate, and they're working M&S for their area. So like command and control people doing M&S, and they're all kind of spread out. So that's how we're set up, distributed by M&S by area. And so here, 711th or RH, kind of AFRL, RH, it's a two-letter. That organization is heavier into looking at areas that resonate with their ITSEC community, because it's all about training, and it's training and simulations, which is all about how you work with humans and experiment. So I wanted to switch to the questions, our prepared questions, and then we'll, like I said, we'll switch and open it up so you can ask some questions and we can have some discussion. The first question is, for all the panel members, is we're undergoing a digital transformation writ large across the Department of War, and there's that digital transformation needs a kind of special flavor in the S&T world, because you're usually working with program offices that are enabling their acquisition and speeding up their acquisition using digital engineering techniques and digital transformation. So we have a kind of unique application of digital transformation at AFRL. And I wanted each of the panel members to share how they're doing digital transformation in their area and how they're embracing build the model first, build the simulation, that kind of general thinking. You, Glenn.
Yeah, so I think that digital transformation, digital thread is really central to what the Modeling and Simulation Integration Lab or MISSIL is doing. So as I said up front, JSE is really at the core of what we're trying to establish and do there. And JSE is really envisioned as a backbone for the digital thread for the Air Force. And so part of what we're doing in the MISSIL is building relationships across the acquisition community in the Air Force. So working with the test center, working with the program offices, working with IDO, working with the other technology directorates to understand their modeling and simulation needs, so that as we develop and mature technology, we can bring it into that digital thread earlier. Jim mentioned a lot of, all of our tech directorates do modeling and simulation work. Historically, they do that work in sort of stovepipe but exquisitely capable modeling and simulation environments that are really tailored to the technology areas where those individuals are working. And then when they transition that, it's up to the program offices or end users or whoever's going to take that technology to then rework that into the operational training and test infrastructure that's going to be used to then mature and transition it. What we want to do is back that integration up into the laboratory, so now early in the development process we can take modeling and simulation technologies from those different technology directorates and bring that into JSE and other modeling and sim environments that are going to support the digital thread and the pipeline through to OTTI, and do some of that early integration, and also expose that to human operators and performers early in the process, so that as the technology is maturing, we're achieving basically integration by design by bringing those things into the environments and ecosystems where the Air Force is working sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so we have a program in the readiness product line, and it's a 6-3 just-in-time training program. And how we did digital engineering with that is it's a system, obviously, that didn't exist. And so how we went about this is observing observing exercises, talking to the warfighters in the ops community, which drove the shape of this system. We did the quick and dirty simulation of components to see if it's feasible to connect up to this backend, or does this really work? Do all of these link together? And so we built the SysML model, put in all the components, but what really makes that valuable is that when you are looking to transition some of these technologies, this is the common language that between our research and development and our acquisition communities. We can then hand off these models to the acquisition community. We've done a lot of the upfront work for them. They don't have to reverse engineer any of our systems. When we've got the SysML model right there, they can look into it and see the block definition diagrams of all of the interlinkages. So that's really how we've used it, how we've applied it in the readiness product line.
So from the AFSM perspective, we are tracking that all the offices in the DOW are working on digital transformation. AFSM is definitely extensively used within all of the different ARL technology directorates and outside of that. So one of the things we are trying to do is planning on developing like an advanced solution, SysML to AFSM translator. We understand that there are a few out there, but as we stand up the AFSM model management office and working across the enterprise is trying to work on more of a, I don't want to use the word standard because that's Dr. Gump's word, but something that's more of a standard that is what we can have to make it easier for people to, leverage that. So as we talk about weapon system life cycles and things like that, when you look at AFSM, it is, like we said before, used for a lot of analyses and things, but it's at the center of supporting and enabling the digital transformation because of the systems engineering and things that are applied to the processes. So when you look at AFSM, it's an integral part of the system with the idealization and conception from AFRL, shape, and S&T research and technology, and looking at that to help leverage investment decisions on things being made. So from the AFSM perspective, that's how we see ourselves helping with the digital transformation as we go out there and try to make it easier for people to leverage things as we try to go out and do more standard-based things, Dr. Gump.
So the tech challenges are numerous, obviously, and determining where best to put our resources and focus our priorities is not a simple thing. So using some of the tools that are provided by through digital engineering and model-based systems engineering help us determine how best to get our arms around some of those problems. So for example, if we can put the human in as an integral part of an overall system and model it there, that can help us identify which research questions we can be focused on for human-in-the-loop experimentation to address some specific mission-related needs. In our current research efforts, we're trying to align some of our work with operational needs, but it also helps us define where the gaps might be for future research, and what are the highest priorities for future investments. One example, a little bit more operationally focused, is the max endurance operations, or the long duration flights. And we've been using MBSE to look at where best to put our resources for studying problems such as fatigue and cognitive decline over long duration flights. How can we mitigate some of those external performance threats, and how can we increase task critical human performance above some natural state baseline? In terms of digital engineering principles, well, we have an enormous amount of data that have been collected over the years and that we continue to collect in our training exercises. How do we get our arms around that? They're important for us to be able to identify what the metrics are that will help support the development and validation of, for example, competency models. One example of how we're doing that right now is there is a government-owned repository of human learning data that we've just established from en route care readiness training. This is a really nice model for how we can organize our data sets. The data comprise audio and video recordings, surveys, grading documents, patient simulator outputs, and they've been used for 2 different critical care air transport teams. They're high fidelity training simulations, so it gives us a good surrogate for what happens in the real world. And the data are organized and contextualized, and individual researchers can gain access to those data by developing a protocol for the institutional review board that says, I want to look at these data. They can dive into those data, get access there. The data were all collected through informed consent. And again, this is a model for how we can manage large data sets and make them available to everybody. So this has been very successful, and in fact, we know right now Transcom and some other groups are digging into that particular data set, but I think that this could be something that we use going forward.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I hope you heard that really the digital thread term that came up is really important, that the digital thread is the notion that you have starting S&T, you have all your digital artifacts, and then it goes right through the acquisition program into sustainment. It could even be back all the way through the warfighter. So the digital thread, we like to think it starts at AFRL if you need any tech. If you don't need any tech, you kind of skip over AFRL, obviously, because you just crank your program. So if you have any S&T, we start the thread, and then we transition it to the program offices. So that's a big tie-in from the Digital Transformation Initiative. Next question was, we had looked at agile development, which has been around for a while, but then there's also this notion of DevSecOps. If you're familiar with, first it was DevOps, where you develop software and you rapidly deploy it. Good example is Air Operations Center. They do development and then they rapidly deploy it to the AOCs and they do operations with the same software. So the idea with DevSecOps is that you have security baked in. So how have we worked Agile and DevSecOps in AFRL? Over to you, Glenn.
This seems like a Jerome question to start.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So AFSIM being a government-owned software, it is managed and sustained through the AFSIM product management team with a contractor. And so working with industry partners on these efforts to ensure we have the latest and greatest practices on DevSecOps has been one of the things that we definitely pride ourselves with. So leading into that, one of those things that really help is DevSecOps is not just always about like the computer science perspective, right? Leveraging these processes also can be utilized to help streamline and improve the development and analytics, testing, and training processes. So leveraging these practices and processes makes it easier with AFSIM to integrate custom software, tools, and modules that the DevSecOps processes being supplied to support these get enabled and improved from the investments that happen in AFSIM with the improvements that we have. So when those workflows are improved in AFSIM, right, it benefits to everybody we talk about in our major user community. So we really like the fact that we're leaning forward and working with industry partners and have people on contract because it allows us to stay out in front with the latest practices with DevSecOps.
Yeah, thanks, Jerome. And I'm glad you jumped to that one because I think it's really, in a lot of ways, it's about the software and the team that has been working AFSIM for years. If you talk to them, they understand what's going on in industry, best practices with DevSecOps, so they know about what's industry's doing because we're not ahead in software development in a lot of ways in the Department of War. So it's really all about what is industry doing in that area, and software you got to crank because it's an efficiency thing, really.
Yeah, and we have a really great working relationship with those guys. Where their government, we're government managed and government owned, but I mean they bring everything to the table, to us with the latest innovation and practices, and we really work together to make sure we're staying in front. So it's a great collaboration.
Yeah, thanks, Jerome.
And I want to add on to that, specifically for research and development programs, you are learning a lot as you go down the path, and so you have to be on an agile mindset because we ran 2-week sprints, and I can't tell you how much we learned along the way and things that changed, and you have to be flexible because you're learning so much along the way, and all the R&D and programs have to utilize that kind of approach. It's just a learning pathway that you're going down.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The idea that you have agile development with the warfighter folks, like if we're working with ACC or some MAGCOM, you get them in regularly and they say, no, wait a minute, what are you doing? And you kind of course correct and they go, no, that's not what we need help on. We need help on this. So it's that agile, those sprints where you get that feedback from the end user. It's really important. All right,
I'll
go
jump
ahead.
in real fast too, just to pile on to what Jerome said, because he mentioned modeling. And if we're thinking again about human models, we're trying to build a number of different models that are focused on different processes and that also can be applied to specific operational situations. If we can pull those into a common cognitive architecture and use those as plugins for AFSIM or missile or whatever, that allows us to put in new models, test them, iterate on them, and if we can organize them in that way through agile development, that helps us to improve our models more rapidly and more effectively.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I'll go. We got some questions, so I'll keep going. This is good. I think we can focus a little bit on the questions and finish these up, and then we'll get to the ones you guys sent in already. So there's a term, Valley of Death. My boss, General Pringle, was here a few years ago. She did the Valley of Death panel, so she's a great speaker, to Heather Pringle. And she was here, and we prepped, and it was all about, if you haven't heard the term, I got to go through it really quickly. So the idea is you have some technology, then you have the folks that are going to make it real and apply it, build a system, whatever, that exploits that technology, and then gets it out as a capability. And this is in the industry and the military. It's broadly a problem that you have that technology and it sits and falls into the valley of death and dies because you don't have the sponsorship. So in a way, our technology, we have to work with the acquirers closely. Sometimes we work together in the same program office, AFRL, and we have LCMC, and LCMC folks are here. We work together in a transition that's like we're all working it together, and then you don't have to worry about, well, it falls into the valley of death. You also have to palm our program for funding. So I wanted to ask the panel how you're dealing with that, valley of death and working more closely with the warfighter to make sure we get our tech out. Starting with you.
Starting with me, okay.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess from my perspective, not sure how many people are tracking, but there's some changes unfolding across government and in particular in the DoD. Acquisition reform happening from the inside looking out. It is a little chaotic at this point, but the intent of that is to address some of these issues with how we get science and technology into operational concepts and into the technology that we transition out to the warfighters. And so I think really everybody wants that process to work more efficiently. And one of the things that's becoming a driver inside the Air Force Materiel Command, where we do all of the acquisitions work, is looking hard at how we collaborate across the centers to make sure that we're coordinated and tracking and driving that pipeline to produce results as quickly as possible. And in fact, Mr. Tempolsky, the Chief Modeling and Simulation Officer for the Air Force, helped to establish the Modeling and Simulation Integration Lab as a way to facilitate getting over the valley of death. And so if we can do that integration by design, get technologies from the laboratory into the digital thread, integrated into the Air Force's OTTI ecosystem early in the development process, do experimentation with people, and help move that into program offices, to end users, into operations. That's really what the missile is about, and what we're trying to accomplish is to get over that valley of death and facilitate and speed up the technology transition, and make sure that we're getting the right capabilities to the warfighter to provide them with war-winning capabilities.
So in the readiness product line, we have a program. It is very much a tech push effort where there isn't a requirement, but it's like we mentioned, it's us looking forward and identifying the gaps and coming up with technologies to bridge those gaps. But it deals with just-in-time training in deployed environments when you have a reduced personnel footprint spread across many operating locations. There could be times when you have the right maintainer in the wrong location, and you still need to get the mission done with the people that you have. And so we came up with an on-demand training capability to quickly have somebody gain the necessary knowledge and skills they need to perform a new task. So, like I said, this is push. There wasn't a requirement, and so as we're socializing this with units and program offices, we kept getting told, where's the requirement? We don't have a requirement kind of deal. And so after being told that multiple times, said, well, let's make the requirement. Let's figure this out. And the way we went about that is a 1067, an Air Force 1067, which is a modification proposal to an existing system. But what that can do is document a capability gap, and that's where the requirement can originate from. And so when we're looking at specifically technologies that are tech push, we need to be starting that from the very, very beginning, because it is a lengthy process to have those go through. So that's my recommendation for that. But also, what I clearly found out is we all need a shared vision of success. So the lab, the ops community, then users, and then the acquisition community as well. We all value different things and determine success at different levels. And so getting us all on the same page on that shared vision of success can go a very long way.
I want to elaborate on that, especially the collaborations that take place, right, when you're reaching across AFRL and then the acquisition world and the LCMCs. From the standpoint of AFSIM, right, it's used at the center point for a lot of different simulation efforts for a lot of people. And from the AFRL perspective, we look at AFSIM as another technology that we create and transition that out and give those different those data sets and those models and those things out to those program offices to help them make decisions. We think that that's really big with the SysML and the models we're giving those guys to help make decisions on their program to kind of jumpstart them as we talk about bridging the valley of death when they're making programmatic decisions for the, their programs and the funding and the POM and stuff they're going after. I mean, it's a really great tool to get after getting an early look at things, right? Since we run faster than real time, it can kind of help get those analyses out. So a lot of programmatic decisions that take place. So we really like to support that.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think this is actually one of the most critical questions that we need to address, because at the bench level, we have incredibly bright researchers who want to ensure that they're focused on the right things. If we can focus on the right work and ensuring that we are prioritizing our resources, that can go a long way towards closing that gap. There are organizational barriers, but what we need to ensure is that the requirements are flowing down, that the tech challenges are clear to them so that they can be focused there. Now, some of the burden is on the researchers as well to better understand the various M&S ecosystem stakeholders and what their roles are and how to quickly get to the core issues that they need. But those stakeholders also need to clearly communicate what their requirements are, and that needs to be sort of a continuous active dialogue in order for us to be able to do that. Then they can apply their expertise in experimentation to get at those problems. And it needs to happen up front. It needs to happen right away, because if they come in late to the process, it may just be too late. I will just point out that Glenn has proposed a model for how we can move towards achieving some of this through his work leading the missile, the Modeling, Simulation, and Integration Lab. And that's to have a researcher as a POC for each of the, now this is a 6.2 researcher, for each of the different customer groups that we have, that we're working with, so that they can really dive deeply into their problem space and get a good understanding of it and be that main person to help pull down some of the requirements and then push up some of our innovative tech ideas as well. So I think that we're getting ready to implement that, and I think it's a brilliant idea. Thanks, Jim.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Brian. So we're on to so on number 4. I might pause 5 to get to some of these, but then number 4, the one that's always interesting to people, is how are you exploiting AI and data analytics as another area of technology. So there's a lot at the lab. We have AI folks that are doing work with autonomy, that is kind of AI, but then also what's going on in LLMs. We have a NIPR GPT deployment. So we have ChatGPT kind of on the Air Force side, Air and Space Force available. The Army and some services might feel like, well, you have to make sure it's all locked down, and so there's some restrictions on access, but I wanted to put that out there, that we have an LLM that you can ask it, kind of questions, DoD kind of DOW questions that you wouldn't ask the regular ChatGPT, because it's getting all your questions. So we're trying to exploit LLMs and work in autonomy, but I wanted to hear from the different areas how you're trying to exploit AI in your area.
Somebody else want to jump in first?
Yeah, I can. So when I'm looking at just-in-time training, as a general just-in-time training tool in deployed environments, and being able to support multiple different use cases, looking at some auto-generated AI content. But the challenge is that the validation piece. So we can have some AI generated content, training content for X, Y, and Z, but it's the validation piece that I think is the hardest part, because as we were doing some of this just-in-time training, we noticed some inconsistencies between the different operational units that we were interacting with. One unit would do a procedure one way, another unit would do a procedure a different way, and it's the same. They're going off of the same instructions, guidance, TO, but they're doing it in a different order. So it's that validation piece that, yeah, we can create some content, but how do we know that that is the valid steps that we need to take, and that it's not going to damage an aircraft, or you're not going to put forklifts into the side of the fuselage or something along those lines. So so we can do the artificial intelligence training, but that validation piece is the key. And so we're currently exploring different ways of trying to get that piece together.
Yeah, our team's been using, they've been exploring AI and LLMs for some time now. One of the things that's really big on the AFSIM side is the application side of the house. The AIs and LLMs actually, they really do support the workflow processes. AFSIM's been used and linked with things for several years now, using these different machine learning methods to streamline the different designs and experiments and optimization routes for tools, such as the harness and adaptive learning. On the development side of the house, these technologies have been getting explored to further enhance the battle management related tools and models that we have in AFSIM currently right now. Our team has been looking at this for some time now, and we also have another 2 things we're working with. One with AFIT right now, where we're also doing, we have some different analyses, writing models and scripts and plain text instructions for those guys up there. And then we have some things on the classified side and RQSA that we're working on. So they have been leaning forward and looking at the AI and LLM things for some time now. So as we continue to exploit these technologies, we definitely see AFSIM growing in these areas and helping set the stage from the AFRL side of leaning forward on that.
So we're working with Stephen's team on some just-in-time kinds of training technologies as well. but we're, again, a little farther back in the process, and we're trying to look at AI not just as a tool in this case, but as a learning partner. So where a human and an AI are learning together in real time with each other and from each other. And the program that is focusing on that right now is Just-in-Time Tactical Tutor. And that can provide, at an individual level, some personalized training for specific team members or on specific topics. It can help to refresh primary or secondary at-risk tasks and skills and knowledge. It can help mitigate the skill decay and address sort of team member unavailability in teaming situations. But it also can work at a teaming level where they're really sort of tracking team level readiness and identify gaps that can trigger individual level refresher or pick the right team member based on an AI-enabled system that knows who knows what and at what level of sophistication they have that information, so they know exactly where to plug in some additional information to get through. We're also looking at hybridization of cognitive models and AI ML approaches so that we can get the best of both worlds, so we can get the efficiency of AI, but really the high fidelity that cognitive models provide us, so we can do some switching along the way and address things appropriately, either serially as they come up in particular phases or in parallel, so that we can work and use these models in real time, something that you can't do with cognitive models alone.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So I guess I have a couple of answers. One of them, at least, will pull on that thread that Brian just brought up. But I think we probably need to be a little more nuanced now when we talk about AI as to what exactly we mean. I'm worried that we're kind of retreating back to where things were a decade ago, where people would just say that they were sprinkling a little AI on their technology and it was going to make everything better. So I'll mention 3 different ways that I think AI plays into the work that we're doing. One is, in many instances now, AI is the capability, right? So, in particular, for the Air Force, autonomous aircraft are an emerging technology. And so the AI that goes into those is the capability that we are exploring and researching and working to transition. And so we have to understand how that fits into the operational environment where we're going to put it. A second case is where, and I think this one is where it shows up mostly here at ITSEC. AI is sort of in the background doing stuff for us in a training context. So data analytics to support evaluating performance or other applications. There's some good demonstrations of large language model based scenario development where you've got some code generation under the hood. You know, those kinds of things where there's machinery that's leveraging AI capabilities and technologies to expand what we can do using modeling and simulation from a training context or other contexts. And then, and we're doing those things too, looking at how we can incorporate those into our modeling and simulation infrastructure. And then the last one that Brian sort of alluded to is where we can use AI now to capture something important about human cognition and decision making, and use that as a way to augment either our understanding of what people are doing or to further support the training environment. So Brian's got a team in his group that is focused for a long time. Way back in the day, I was part of that group, looking at how we can use our understanding of human cognition and behavior to develop essentially AI systems that look and feel and behave like people in pursuit of being able to create better constructive forces in our training environments so that the experience is more realistic. Wink, who disappeared somewhere, had an effort had an effort back in the day called the Not So Grand Challenge, where he demonstrated some steps in this direction. But I think even with all of the success that we've seen in those areas, I think there's still a long way that we need to go from an S&T perspective before we're really at the point where we can populate our training environments with constructive forces that are convincing enough and compelling enough that they are, really one-for-one replacements for human operators or white forces or red forces in those training environments. So there's a lot of capability that we're leveraging today for AI, lots of opportunity space to take advantage of what's out there, but I think in many cases there's still a lot of work that we can do to improve those capabilities and get it into our modeling and simulation systems.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been meeting with a bunch of AI companies, and the first thing I try to figure out is what part of the problem are you working on with the AI? So I like to think of it, use a cockpit simulator example. You've got the trainee who's sitting in the cockpit learning how to fly the aircraft. Then you might have computer Op 4, or you might have a real Op 4, a human playing the Op 4, because it might be better to have a human playing the Op 4. And then you have the idea of you got to crank the code and develop the system. Then you got the instructor behind. So all of the people can be replaced in a way by AI. That's one way of looking at it. Your instructor could be a computer watching and seeing how they perform. The aggressor could be an AI that's replacing the aggressor. And then you can even test the system swap out the pilot with some kind of an AI so we can test it, stress the system. So you got to think about the AI where you're applying it. It's not all LLMs, you're chatting, ChatGPT. There's way more to it, and you got to figure out where you're going to plug it in. So that's really where I've been, because I'm a mod sim guy at Cap Rogers. If you want to reach out to AFRL and talk about AI, there's Cap Rogers, the whole team working on AI at AFRL, also in Rome, New York. So I encourage you to reach out, and then me as a mod sim guy, they keep saying, well, how are you using AI? How are you using AI? And so I've been thinking about it for a couple of years. We did Mod Sim World Talk on AI, so I encourage you to, I have PA clear charts on that. So there's more to get at, but we talk about it, but we have to get there. So we have this idea of we're Mod Sim people, we know about AI people, and we're like, we have to exploit it. So we got to get there, but I think we're still working on it. How can we apply it? So I'll hold the fifth question, which is really open architectures, and so I can get to some of the questions from you guys. We're at 36 minutes left, so I shuffled them a little bit, so stack the deck. So we're starting starting with Glenn, Glenn Gunzelman, Dr. Gunzelman. Does a company need to have a CRADA with you or a contractual relationship to bring a capability into the missile or the JIAB, use your JIAB? And that's from GD Mission Systems.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's probably a number of possibilities. CRADAs might be the most likely and the easiest and most appropriate. We don't have a big bucket of cash, you'll be shocked to hear, to go out and acquire whatever your technology is and take on the burden of doing the integration and experimentation for you and doing all that work. So if you have a capability out in industry and you have an interest in experimenting with that in JSE or looking at it in particular scenarios or contexts, I think we can facilitate that. And through a CRADA, if you're willing to bring some resources to the table to bring that technology to us, we should be able to provide some support on our side to perform the integration and conduct that experimentation work to do whatever it is that you want. And so that's my guess, is that a CRADA is going to be the best option. There may be some cases where a contract makes sense. It'll just depend on the particular situation and scenario that we're talking about. Feel happy to have that conversation. It'll probably depend on the details.
Yep, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, so the next one is really for the whole panel. the challenge, we're looking at reorganization at AFRL. This is from Jacob Miracle, and he's asking, what does the panel think about how the technology directorates can reorganize? What would you think to reorganize to better align and adjust the portfolio acquisition executive construct under AC reform?
So I'll take the first crack at that. Coming from LCMC and coming over to AFRL, I would be very transparent. It was a little confusing what all the different TDs were doing and how they contribute to the DAF. I think the reform we're seeing now, I think is awesome because you are really getting after true capabilities and being forced to work across the different TDs to provide actual capabilities to support the DAF, right? There's a lot of cool projects and things that take place in AFRL, and I think it's really cool that we're gonna really work together to actually really, when we talk about the tech transfer and what we provide the DAF, AFRL has a lot of things they can offer that I think now are gonna be, focused on really getting out there and making sure things are transitioned correctly. I really think it's a great thing.
Yeah, just to pile on that, we're looking at bigger, more integrated efforts across the lab, and that's going to help us actually deliver.
Yep.
They're going to be higher visibility, they're going to have more advocacy, more support, and they're going to be going after the biggest, highest priority things. So I agree with you.
Yeah, so my boss is General Bartolome, the AFRL commander. He's been in the seat probably a year, a little over a year. And he's really concerned because he came from the acquisition side and seen the program offices, worked Sentinel, worked EB, he was down there. And so he's really concerned about, well, what are the POs needing? Or they're changing the name even of POs, and then we're getting rid of JSID. So there's a lot of changes right now, but he's really concerned about how do we make sure we know exactly what the SPOs need, the program offices. So it really comes down to the program office and the technology. And if you can't marry or match it up and you don't have a good story and you're standing in front of him and you're saying, I never talked to the PO, that's wrong. Right away out of the gate, he'll say, no, you better go out to wherever, Hanscom or WritePad or wherever, and talk to EB and talk to the SPOs. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. At some level, the organization under the hood isn't as important as the drive to improve the collaboration and connection to program offices, operational requirements, and end users. And so regardless of what the structure ends up being, as long as that relationship and connection is being reinforced and strengthened, I think it's going to improve the ability of the lab to identify, develop, and mature technologies that are going to be of benefit for the operational Air Force.
And I'll pull on that thread again. So we didn't get to question 5. I think it was a great question that I was actually looking forward to leading into a little bit. So with AFSIM, right, we're working with a direct partnership with the CIMSO and SAF-SA, right? We are working with their direction to expand AFSIM to be a true DoD, DOW tool driven from OSD. And a perfect example of this is AFSIM is being used as an exploratory tool right now to potentially help close gaps in the long-range kill chain. So when we talk about interoperability and integration, we are heavily embedded into the working groups of JSC and other things that exist in adapting our architecture to be more modular, so whatever the future is can be supportive of the different things we talked about with interoperability and integration for the future. So these things are huge, and we are getting away from the old way we did business and really focusing on the future. So we're talking about, right, common reusability, all those different resources that are out there, really trying to focus on the CIMSO and what SAF-SA wants. If those resources are out there and have been leveraged, we should be having these collaborations and partnerships across the different services to leverage these things to bring capability to the DAF, right? So I think that's one of the awesome things about the new role we're in and where AFSIM's going, and that's where I'm at on the panel from a training perspective up here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jerome. So the open architecture, like most concept where it's open systems architecture, that allows you to take kind of the best of breed. So sensors director working on some sensor thing and some radio program working on that other part. And then if you break up like a weapon system under WOSA, then you can get the technology from the different parts of the lab and kind of put it together. We have a tendency to be little stovepipes, so you go over, well, this one TD will be burrowed in and won't know about the other technology directorates. So as you open up the architecture, you can integrate things better. So I'm glad you brought that up.
And Jerome and I actually talk to each other, even though we're in different technology directorates, and
Yeah.
and we're doing a little work together to make sure that as he's working initiatives like native grid versions of AFSIM, that we're working together to make sure that that is integrated and interoperable with the M&S architectures that we're developing over in the missiles. So my answer to the open architectures question was going to be easy. It's just yes. Yeah, we want to do that. We want to be able to make things so that we're not stovepiped and disconnected, and we want things to be able to plug in and be pulled out as technologies advance or things change. My perspective has always been that I think it's the government's role and responsibility to identify and maintain that foundational level of the architecture, and then industry's job to fill in the capabilities to make that architecture work. So, and in order to do that, they've got to be open and accessible, and everybody's got to have a chance to play.
Go ahead.
Just to add on to that, that's another way you can bring in all of the different commercial tech. Like you're out on the exhibit floor and just look at the amount of XR technology that's out on the floor. But those open architectures are ways that you can bring that technology into your systems and have it be interoperable with everything else.
And that ties into standards, my favorite discussion. So you have you need standards. So
It's only a half hour.
Yeah, it's only exactly. It won't go long on standards. So and also it's we don't want to have in the Department of War. We don't want to have this vendor lock we've had before. So open architectures allow best of breed. You get this seeker head, this weapon, this whatever piece, and you put it together. So I want to keep getting through the questions. We got to the last question by you guys jumping in, which is good.
Yeah.
So this is for Jerome, Mr. Ray. What is your typical form of engagement with industry through programs of record, operational community, or directly with companies? That's from GD Mission Systems again.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of all of the above. So we have a AFSIM users group and users community, and the industry partners that want in, there's an onboarding guide we have, and you just go through the process, and actually we give AFSIM out. It's open source, right? So once you get involved in that user community, and it's simply, you can find me after this seminar, and I'll give you my information, and we'll get you the onboarding guide. Once you get in, you're in the user community, you have access to our DLE, which is our digital laboratory environment, where we keep everything. All the users are in there. People are presenting their bug fixes. That's where we help get some of our backlog from. There's a Confluence page where you can do all your collaborations. Like we said, it's truly a partnership, how we're growing AFSIM with both industry partners, academia with the FFRDCs, as well as government partners. So would love to get you guys involved and get in whoever's interested.
Yeah, thanks, Jerome. Yeah, so the next one is from Scott Burdick. We got, what is the process AFRL uses to cross boundaries or provide tooling to academia, such as AFIT and WritePat, for your orgs? Anyone want to take that one?
Jim, could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I could.
Yeah, what is the process that AFRL uses to cross boundaries or provide tooling to academia, such as AFIT at WritePat, for your organizations? And that's Scott Burdick from AFIT.
It's more, we've been talking a lot this morning about pushing to the right, getting things fielded. There's also pushing the left back towards academia. So what's the process to tie back to academia? I know there are processes in place, but going through the process myself right now, I'd love to get access to more tools or build things out.
Yeah, I think that there are a number of ways. CRADA, as we talked about earlier, have been very successful for us in terms of working with academia. If you're talking about with AFIT, I think that there are more opportunities there, more ways that we can work. But in general with academia, back to the open architecture question, if we can provide those kinds of tools to enable us to share information, share data, and capabilities. And then we can do that through cooperative research and development agreements, or if there are ways to help focus funding from, for example, AFOSR, working with them and maybe a partner in the lab to get to fundamental research questions. That has been very successful. Are you running into specific roadblocks right now that?
Just trying to expand.
Yeah.
Grab data if I can, grab tooling if I can.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
talk about that there.
I mean, there's a number of explicit mechanisms out there. There are programs like SMART and other things where the DOW or the Air Force will sponsor students to go to a university and participate in the labs, and they can serve as a bridge then between some of our research requirements and the capabilities and expertise that you have at the university. So that's one. There are AFOSR programs. I'm thinking specifically of the test program at AFOSR that's led by Dr. Brett Polkinis. And what he is doing is he's trying to build a relationship through AFRL and to the Air Force Test Center so that he can help to facilitate access to relevant data and relevant environments for academic researchers. That helps to accelerate their ability to impact operations. And I think so even in the academic realm, I think the target is to increase the speed with which we can take foundational insights and foundational theory and move that through the pipeline to operationally relevant kinds of contexts and environments. So there's some of those programs out there. I know that AFRL now has regional campuses established to facilitate interactions and collaborations with universities. So I don't have the list off the top of my head right now, but I can get that to you. And then if you have students in your labs and you just want to make that connection and get tied into some of the work that we're doing, there's a collection of internship programs that are run out of AFRL on an annual basis where we bring students in over the summer. Stephen would love to talk to you about the really fabulous program that the Gaming Research Integration for Learning Lab runs every summer, where students come in and work on Air Force relevant problems using the gaming environments that he has. And so I think the right answer is to try to figure out where the fit is or where you want to get tied in, and then try to make some of those connections with some of the people, because there really are a lot of opportunities out there, and AFRL is pretty aggressive in trying to create mechanisms to connect with universities and leverage that expertise to help build what we're able to do more holistically.
Yeah, and I think it depends too on if you're working with an institution where the students don't have clearances, but they want to get access to tools, and maybe they have ITAR issues or they can't get AFSIM or but we can work through sponsoring folks to get access to AFSIM. You really need to sign agreements, and on the government side, have an agreement to use our software for our GOTS. If you want to get COTS, then you want to get like SysML tools, you get access to those. So I think we have at AFRL have multiple environments and multiple classification levels. We need really to sponsor, the SIMSO has an initiative called the Gateway, and we're trying to sponsor people onto the Gateway so they can run a VM out of Maui. I'll make it really short. Drew's not here anymore, but it'll make it short. He has a whole talk on that. There's an idea where you can sponsor folks to be able to use the same tooling that we have on the, even on the classified side. It's just like unclassified databases. So we have to get access to the tooling to the folks in academia so students can use it, and not all those hurdles where I gotta get the software, I gotta load it, I don't even know how to run it. And so I think we should probably continue to work with like the academy and the other folks. So I think that's important. that was a good one. And then I wanted to get to one, really, we all care about helping industry, and I think some of these, I'm trying to grab some of them to help you understand industry. In the defense construct, how are you prepared to allow AI to make autonomous decisions without a human in the loop? And what kill switch must remain to ensure command authority control? So it's more like a philosophical from Lester. What are you thinking about with AI and the kill switch?
I guess I'm just happily separated from that responsibility to have those philosophical thoughts and plans and programs. I mean, at some level, those policy level decisions I don't think are the labs to make. Certainly we can provide research support and input to it, but at the end of the day, it's not on the lab to decide what an autonomous aircraft or other capability out there in an operational environment should be allowed to do or will be allowed to do, and what the safeguards are that need to be there. Now, if those requirements are passed to us, then sure, I think we've got the expertise to implement that and to do some of the verification and validation that, if you hit the kill switch, it's actually going to stop the thing from doing the thing.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it to others to make the decision about where that line ought to be drawn.
And I also think that it's a little bit back and forth. So if you're working on a system, directed energy weapon, I'll use that as an example, you're working with the warfighter, you might offer up, AFRL researcher might offer up, well, should we do this? And so I think it's a little back and forth. Our researchers think about these kind of issues, and then they talk to the warfighter who's working on the requirements. Yeah. And you go back and forth. You go, well, we can put that in. It's not that hard, and we'll add it.
I didn't mean to answer for everybody. You guys want to make that decision about where that line should be?
I was correct.
Nobody wants to touch the kill switch. So we'll get to the next one. So what measures are being incorporated into the development process to ensure cybersecurity concerns, specifically risk management framework, RMF expectations, and preparing for timely authority to operate for your ATO are achieved prior to fielding capabilities and to operational units? Anybody want to talk about RMF?
What?
Everybody loves RMF. We love RMF.
There's so many trigger words in that in that particular question. I don't have a good answer for that question, but I will say that those issues are really part and parcel with virtually everything that we're doing in the modeling and simulation integration lab, and they often create challenges and delays, and they certainly create some extra work for us to do. But what we're trying to do is basically figure out the right balance for us in the laboratory as to where we need to position that risk and how much risk we ought to be accepting in order to meet the goals of moving fast. So RMF packages, ATOs, all of that stuff creates a relentless series of headaches and challenges, and we toil away and do our best to address that, and we are working with our security team and cyber teams to try to figure out how to both navigate those processes more efficiently and also come up with heuristics and a balance where we can get through those processes efficiently and have a manageable and acceptable level of risk that still allows us to move quickly. Which I don't think was the question, but
no, that was good.
That's the answer I've got.
No, that was good. So what I think too is, if you're not familiar with how we operate AFRL with RMF, we have a digital capabilities director at DCD that has the authority to do, it's based on authorizing officials, so we follow RMF. And we have the authority at AFRL to ATO and do RMF on our weapon systems that are prototype R&D systems, and then we RMF them, and then we go through the whole process and we transition. So it's not like we ignore risk management framework, and we do have people that know how to do that. And so we do that on our side with our people. We don't have to call on anyone else. We have the authorities. So we do that and then follow the process, and then we transition that. So that's part of the transition as a package should be RMF, thing we built, and the data.
Yeah, and so depending on what it is, you can sometimes utilize existing ones and add to them, which can save a tremendous amount of time and headaches. So try to look at existing ones and see if you can plug in and fit in there, because it'll save you a lot of time.
Yeah, we have one system that's really interesting to me, is that we have made a nice enclave that we've talked to the accreditors, and they said you can take software that's not ATO'd, run it directly in that enclave, and it hangs off a classified network, and we can run the software there without all the ATO. Takes a long time to get the ATO and do all that RMF because it's protected enclave. And so we're pretty proud of what we've been able to do with people can crank code, drop it in there, run it. And so if you're interested in that, you can reach out to AFRL, and it's AFRDMI is the example system, and we can share it. It's PA cleared to share with AFRDMI. So
Yeah,
good example.
I'm actually curious about Jerome's perspective, because he's in a different part of the laboratory, and things are not always identical across the different organizations. They sometimes handle these things differently.
Yeah, and I think, and it's actually, so our senior software engineer really leans hard into that, and he really works that and does a great job. But he works really hard with, like we said, the industry partners and that collaboration of like where we're really at with some of that risk management. And so that's again where I appreciate being able to lean in with industry and their role in helping us out and trying to help, figure out where that needle should be, and then us taking that conversation back and explaining from the industry standards and everything that they see versus what we see sometime on the government side. And when there's that conflict, having that conversation with security. So our team's been doing a really good job with it. So.
Yeah, thanks, Jerome. So this is right on another AFSIM one. So to AFSIM and the other panelists, what do you see as the impact of the DOW transformation of acquisition and requirements process to your digital transformation efforts?
That's a good question. I don't see, in my humble opinion, I don't see much truly changing from the mission and what we're getting from SimCell and staff and how we're already working with those guys and some of that direct partnership. I think we've already been leaning forward and kind of already working in those type of swim lanes ahead of the curve. And so I don't really see how much would change from kind of how we're already conducting business from the AFSIM side. We're working across, like I said, all the different DoD services and have everybody in the AFSIM user community, which we talked about earlier. And we have a really good streamlined governance on the tactical side and the strategic side to be able to take everything in and start to work on distribution, so enterprise distribution. So I don't really see how much it's going to affect us, to be quite frank.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think whatever the requirements process ends up, we still need a requirements process. We get rid of the JSIDs and streamline it, but we have some requirements process. Then the program office puts out an RFP. If they're doing their job, they should be running their thing in concepts and working warfighter utility analysis using AFSIM off on the side. And so that's why I think it doesn't change, because you got this process, you put out the RFP, they offer, proposes, and they should be using AFSIM as a tool to analyze that warfighter capability. So all the way along, nothing's changed. We've been talking about M&S for decades, using back in the day a suppressor and all these models. Nothing's changed on the modeling sim side in a way that we use M&S to help with dispose, figure out what the warfighter system is going to look like. We should be doing that off on the side in a way. Then you drop your requirements, put them out in an RFP, and buy something. Yep. So I think in a way it's not changing. We should just always be using it. And then digital transformation just says, well, you should be doing an S that we've been talking about for decades. But oh, by the way, we added a lot of SysML modeling, and that's the difference. So we're all in on SysML now, and that's the change in the last few decades that I've been working this stuff. Is everybody's all agreeing that SysML is a good way to model before you build your simulation. Then you can use whatever simulation you want.
Yeah, and from the perspective of the Modeling and Simulation Integration Lab, I'm actually really grateful for the work that Mr. Tempolsky, you mentioned General Pringle earlier as a former lab commander, Dr. Bennett sitting out there in the audience. I'm really grateful for the work that they did in setting up and establishing the initial vision for the missile before I took on responsibility for it, because I think in many ways we're kind of lead turning that transformation, because the emphasis from the very start, going back a couple of years now, was we got to move faster. We have to be able to translate science and technology into operational advantage more quickly than we can today. And so that's what we've been driving at now for a couple of years. And I think we're positioned really well to support the acquisition transformation that's happening today.
Yeah, thanks. And so we're doing pretty well. I got a few more and we have, just for a time check, 8 and 8.5 minutes. And so we have a question here about the fidelity. What level of fidelity has value for a digital twin when the prototype is itself virtual? That's it. So I got to level set in a way, because this term digital twin, people use it, but then a lot of systems are not actually digital twins. The term is supposed to be reserved for something very, very, very detailed, high fidelity. Like if you wanted to do a digital twin of this, this room, it would be the lighting, the HVAC, and the electrical. And that's originally how the term got created. And now we have this idea, well, you have a model or a simulation of something, and they say, well, that's a digital twin. It's really not. It should be very, very exquisite so that you can't even tell the difference between the real thing and this digital twin. That's why they call it a twin. So I think what we end up with a lot of times is we prototype something, and maybe like a command and control system. What's the point of building a simulation or a digital twin when you can actually prototype the system? So I had this debate a lot with people in Rome, New York that are working on command and control, because they're like, well, I'll just build the prototype. Why do I need another thing? I just build the prototype, and it's a new command and control technology or some other technology. So I think it depends really on the technology you're working on. If it's something like a command and control system, software intensive, you might want to build just the actual prototype and not the digital twin. If it's something like our autonomous aircraft, like a Skyborg or rocket cargo Vanguard program, you might want to build the digital twin if you have enough time and money, because it can be very expensive, and then that makes more sense. So you have to decide, does it make sense for your application, or just go build the prototype? So I know I kind of took over for that one, but so we'll go to, we got a few more. So we're trying to get, my favorite one, what would be the top priority area for standardization and or standards needed to assist your program or systems in the future? So can you talk about standards? And I didn't write that. I did not write it. One of my people might. Peggy wrote it. Yeah, I should have known. She did. Yeah, what a surprise. What a surprise. So they don't want to answer. So I got to answer real quick.
Jim's got a whole report.
Yeah, I've got a whole, my folder's full
so
of it. I got a meeting
He's probably
at
got
2 o'clock.
copies he can hand out.
Yeah, exactly. So I encourage you all to participate in a modeling sim standards activity that we're running through CISO. So if you care about a body of knowledge effort, like a body of knowledge for M&S standards, I would encourage you all to participate. So we're going to look at the history of HLA, DIS, all of the whole history of modeling sim, and we're going to capture it in a body of knowledge. We're working it on to CISO, and you can all join and participate in this CISO study. If you look at CISO, Obviously, this ITSEC crowd is all in, we all know about CISO. So you go to CISO and you look at it, and it's called the M&S Standards Body of Knowledge. So I encourage everybody to participate. But it's all the standards that you all know and you've heard for years. So that was really a good set. That was a good setup. Thanks, Peggy. So I had to get that out there. So do you have a specific use case or technology that's traveled the digital thread pipeline? So again, not philosophy, but actually traveled the pipeline for any length. And OSW wants to share best practices that demonstrate digital thread pipeline.
I want to give you guys a chance, but I'll jump in if you don't.
You can take it. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at Jerome. He
Jerome's
looks
got
like he wants to say something. But
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, the mission that AFSIM has right now is a template being scaled to potentially get after creating a DAF office that's getting after multiple different modeling and sim tools, next-gen campaign, next-gen wargaming, M&S Gateway, AFSIM. And a lot of this is, again, like we talked about with our direct partnership with SimSo and SAFSA, and a lot of that is OSD directed. And so when we talk about things through the pipeline and what OSD is kind of looking at, I think AFSIM right now is leading edge of trying to show out what a template like that could build out and look like. So we are the first guinea pigs to try this out. So I think in terms of where we're going, we're definitely stepping in the right direction and following the vision of kind of what OSD is envisioning for us. So.
Yeah, thanks. And I think, too, we have to pick specific programs like the one that New Tanker, we're looking at. The New Tanker is very advanced with the digital engineering approach, and they're AFRL people that are thinking about digital engineering. They're starting the thread, but they're working with the program office. So you got to cherry pick some example programs like the next generation, tanker program. I guess they call NGAS or Cronus or whatever. We keep changing the names of all the programs, but there's a next-gen tanker, that kind of stand-in tanker, that's a good example. So I think that's really the answer in some ways. So I only have a couple minutes left. I wanted to ask the panelists, just in the last couple minutes, how can we kind of summarize, or any closing comments that you want to offer? Because I think this whole area where people are not familiar with S&T as familiar as we'd like. We want to be more open at AFRL. You can, search AFRL and find out about our technology directorates. But I think it's a good opportunity to kind of share what we're doing at AFRL. And then I think it's really, me as a modeling sim person, I think we owe the community the S&T for M&S, not just, we use M&S in-house and we're done. That can't be the answer, right? So we have to birth some M&S tech out of AFRL. And the TDs should all be thinking about how can they birth it, what's next, right? Not just routine old cockpit sims. So any comments from the panel?
in the last 80 seconds.
In the last 80 seconds.
So I guess that maybe I'll just sum up for everybody and just say, reach out and talk to us. If we don't have the answer or we're not connected to your particular technology area, I think between us, we can probably identify the right point of contact, or at least point you in the right direction to talk to folks that might be more closely associated with your technology area if it's not us. And then I'll just take the last 45 seconds. Some of you know this, some of you don't, but Jim said earlier that he works for General Bartolome. It turns out that's only true for about the next 48 hours or so. So he is finishing up his term as a HQE, highly qualified expert with AFRL support in the Air Force. And I just wanted to say thanks for the 5 years that you've put into supporting the organization.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
He's been a tremendous asset in bringing M&S to the awareness of the laboratory and helping to broadcast what the lab can do from that perspective to the rest of the Air Force. And he's been really supportive of me personally and a lot of the efforts that you've heard about today. So
Thanks.
Glad to have
Yeah.
had the opportunity to work with you, and good luck on your next thing,
Thanks.
and congratulations on making it through a 5-year
Retire.
term. Yeah.
Yeah, and retiring. Retiring. I don't think I can really retire, but thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good working with the team. It's a great team at AFRL. And then, like Glenn said, if you go to one AFRL person and they're a ModSim person, they have the network. So you say, well, what about a command and control person? He'll know like John Lacretta in Rome or whatever. So I encourage that. And then in the last, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, no, it's
stopped.
counting up
That's
now.
bad.
They just-
It's counting up.
just
That's
stopped
bad.
it.
That's bad. So I wanted to thank the panelists. Let's give them a round of applause, the panelists. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks, everyone. That's it. Thanks. Yeah.